Okay, so I'm going to present an online course that should add to the knowledge to the experience of first-line respondents who work where offenders with intellectual and psychosocial disabilities are involved. Unlike physical disabilities, the intellectual and the psychosocial ones are not always that obvious, and justice authorities may not always be aware that there is a disabled person before them, as we already saw from the previous presenters. But moreover, these disabilities sometimes remain unidentified and people themselves are not aware they're having them, especially those in mild and sometimes in moderate condition, which are very difficult to distinguish if one is not a specialist. The experience of the police officer, lawyers, prosecutors, and judges often allows them to recognize that there is a problem, but they need specific knowledge from other professional spheres to be able to suspect, identify, and successfully communicate with such offenders. This knowledge can, of course, be applied with respect to other participants of the criminal process too, like witnesses, for example, as well as in general when communicating with people with such impairments in everyday life. So who can benefit from this course? As I already mentioned, these are all the practitioners within the justice system. The focus is, of course, on the first respondents who react at signals, and when showing at crime scene, they often have scarce information at their disposal. They can fall in a situation to have to quickly weigh the circumstances and decide to apply techniques of assessing one's condition, or sometimes apply de-escalation practices. The focus of the training is placed on the specifics that occur when a person with intellectual or psychosocial disability is accused or suspected in committing a crime, but much of the information, especially getting to know about what the conditions are and how does a person with such a condition feel, can help everybody to more successfully communicate with person with such impairments in their everyday life. So it is suitable, and I strongly encourage simply everybody to enroll and take the course. Still, when picking the conditions which the course to present, the project team considered first their prevalence, but we also were led by the vulnerabilities these conditions pose when one is suspected or accused in committing a crime, and how visible these vulnerabilities are. Some of them prove to be easily mistaken to signs of dishonesty, for example. As we spoke in the morning, the link between disability and attempts for deception, I can also add that there is the reverse practice when a disability can be mistaken for a misconception. For example, with people with anxiety disorders, such as social phobia, for example, may have panic attacks when being under pressure and show symptoms like sweating and avoiding eye contact. These can easily be mistaken for attempts for deception, and problems when asked to read and sign, for example, testimony. So their problems can worsen when they're pressed to rush. It is probably obvious, but I still would say that why taking this online course would help practitioners. First of all, people with disabilities sometimes don't fully understand the criminal process, especially those with intellectual disabilities who face problem understanding the complex concepts which justice authorities sometimes use. You saw the readability exercise at Dimitar's presentation. It's a quite good example. They also sometimes underestimate the consequences of their action, which might lead to self-incrimination or voluntary rejection of rights, for example, the right to a lawyer. Others, like those suffering from schizophrenia while being in psychosis, can lose contact with reality and thus need also help. first respondents, therefore, should be aware of the necessary adjustment they should make in order to assure fair process and the rights of these people are observed. Secondly, being aware of a disability will allow a practitioner to make an informed decision within the investigation or a trial. Knowledge about a disability can help a lot, from getting timely support by specialists to avoiding escalation that might threaten a police officer, the offender, or other people like witnesses around. In a less dangerous situation, for example, during questionings, the officers can be able to more successfully interpret people's answers, body language, or action. They can apply the recommended communications tools and techniques so that the investigation process can run more smoothly and thus save time and effort. So you can see that having knowledge about these disabilities can bring many advantages, but why we pick the form of an online course? It is actually the perfect complementation of the rest of the training materials you saw presented, the handbook and the methodology. The course is available in the 4 languages of the project countries, plus in English. They are Bulgarian, Greek, Italian, and French. So it can encompass quite a significant number of potential learners. It is deliberately, for that reason, it is deliberately made neutral in terms of specific of national legislation and national practices. And as it is a self-educational program, it is flexible enough for learners to proceed with their own speed whenever they have the time. They will have their progress saved and will not have to go through all of it in one session. The online form, unlike the handbook, allows for a more practical approach, discussing real stories and simulating events, as you'll see later. The quizzes and the practical module allows for everyone to check the level of the knowledge obtained in an easy and interesting way. And in the end, of course, when sufficient result is achieved, it generates a certificate which every learner can download or share in the social networks. So here is the concrete structure of the course. In the introductory part, learners can read about the Obsidian project and the place of the training platform in it. They will also get acquainted to the modules and to the success rate they need to move ahead and to earn a certificate. Module 1 is the theoretical part, where each of the selected conditions forms a separate lesson. There is a 10-question quiz after each lesson to check the knowledge obtained. The answers are not that obvious, so if you have decided to earn a certificate, I would advise you to read carefully. 70% of average success rate from the 6 quizzes allows the learner to go on to the practical module 2. There, in the form of scenarios, we have elaborated close to real situations in which the learner has to make choices based on what they know from the theoretical module 1 to lead an investigation. Here, of all 4 situations, learners will have to pass at least 2 with score of over 62% to be eligible for a certificate. Passing the second module will take the learner to a feedback form where we shall ask for their opinion on the course in order to further refine and improve it in future, if needed, of course. After filling the 10-question single choice form, the learners are able to download their certificate. And here you can see a screenshot of the main course page in English so that you can get the idea of how it looks. I will now go through each of the modules quickly to present you their contents. Module 1, here are the 6 conditions within this module. As I already said, we selected them on the basis of the hidden vulnerabilities, or not that hidden sometimes, they cause within the criminal process. You can see the intellectual disabilities here with the main problem of not understanding the procedures and concrete steps of potential investigation. Here, for example, we offer a short introduction about how one can easily prepare an easy-to-read version of a document. For example, if police officers find difficult to explain to a person about their rights, so that they can easily react and prepare an easy read version of the document, which to present together with the original one. As another example, in the section about autism, we have tried to explain what a meltdown is and how to try to avoid it or to handle it, and so on with the 6 conditions. You can find out more in the course. For each of the conditions, the information is structured, as you can see it on the slide, in 4 chapters. Some introductory information that gives general idea about the condition and its variations. The second section describes how people with such impairment are vulnerable within the criminal process. The third part provides advice on how to identify the condition, what to look for, whom to ask, and so on, depending on the specific case. The final part has gathered useful practices that might improve communication, prevent or reduce the effects of a crisis. Here is how the initial page of each lesson looks. I have selected the intellectual disabilities here again for the slide, but they're all identical in terms of structure, but they differ in terms of pictures, for which we used the help of our talented illustrator. Here are some of the icons the learners will most often see throughout the lesson. The hand symbol points at important issues that are worth remembering. The true story sign is where the quotes are. We gathered real people's stories and quotes to tell about each condition, because we believe that knowing how a person feels is the best way of understanding what the impairment means. The work hack sign shows practices and pieces of knowledge that can save justice authorities time or can make their work much easier. And the last 2 symbols mark which practices are good and which should be avoided, something like do's and don'ts. Now let's look at module 2. It takes the form of something between a detective story and a computer game. At the picture, you can see our main character, Inspector Morgan, who is leading an investigation in all of the 4 cases. Learners, we have to observe the evidence with him, tell him what they think about the cases, and advise him how to proceed with the investigation. Here you can see some of the illustrations and the headlines of the cases. I will not reveal more so that you can take the tests and enjoy them yourselves. I will just tell you that some stories are fictional, but some are reproduced situations of real criminal cases, which we learned from our professional consultants. Before I finish, I will let you have a look at the link and how can you access the course. It is already online in the 5 languages. Again, these are English, Bulgarian, Greek, French, and Italian. And we would be very glad to receive your opinion, comments, and I would love to answer any question if you have some. Thank you.